Welcome to Sports Street with Richard Campbell, and today is deadline day. Lots of moves happen on deadline day. Through the years, lots of important acquisitions. The crowded trade deadlines turn to teams winning the Stanley Cup. And today it started a bit slow, but it ended in a big way. Now we'll also be looking at previous trades I discussed in my previous video with Luke Crombie, but we're going to take a more in-depth learning into it and that with my guest star Hunter Monkhouse. Welcome, Hunter.
Thanks for having me, Rich. I'm excited to dive into some of these trades.
Me too. Anyways, before we get started, I just want to pay my respects to Cave. 1 year ago, a couple of days ago, Kobe Cave had a brain bleed and he lost his life. Can you elaborate more on this?
Yeah, it was a pretty unfortunate event. He was only 25 years old when it happened, and like any event that happened during the COVID-19 pandemic, it was tough for his friends and family to be there with him in his final minutes. Like you said, he had a bit of a brain bleed, and he was in a medically induced coma for a couple days. Unfortunately, he didn't win the battle, and it was a really tough and heavy hitting loss for the whole NHL to deal with. He played a little bit with the Edmonton Oilers and had a short stint with the Boston Bruins as well, scoring his first NHL goal as a Boston Bruin.
Like it's quite upsetting. Like imagine losing your life at age 25. Like, you,
Yeah, it definitely hurts, especially like for everyone in the hockey community. It was such a sad day, and I'm glad that they were taking times this year to honor him and his family.
you Okay, let's get into the trades. And the first one we're going to be looking into is a big deal between the Devils and Islanders. The Devils sent Kyle Palmieri, a 29-year-old winger from New Jersey who has a couple 30 goal seasons under his belt and who was set to hit free agency, along with longtime Devil Travis Zajac, who is a middle six defensive center who was having quite a good season, to the Islanders for a first round pick. And what else did he get?
He got a conditional 2022 second rounder.
Less. And I personally think it was well worth it. What do you think about it?
Oh, 100%, right? The Islanders were in need of some third and fourth line guys. Sorry, my phone just fell. After losing Honors Lee to injury, it only made sense that they pick up a guy like Kyle Palmieri. And I wasn't expecting Zajac to be on that deal, but he's getting up there. He wants to win a championship, and I think the Islanders give him that opportunity too.
And what I find most interesting about this is Lou Lamoriello for Islanders currency. Both acquired both of these players during his time with the Devils. He drafted Zajac and he traded for Palmieri a little before he left to join the Leafs and then the Islanders afterwards. I found that little tidbit interesting.
Yeah, and I also found kind of a feel good story. The Devils general manager said that he hopes that his 2022 second round conditional pick is a 32nd pick because he hopes for the best for Palmieri and Zajac, and he hopes the Islanders win a cup.
Both veteran guys and they've been in the league for a long time, and as from what I've heard, they're great guys in the locker room, so it only makes sense to rest them both happiness and winning the cup.
Exactly. And as a team, as a Capitals fan in that East Division, like we mentioned, that just made the Islanders a lot stronger heading into these playoffs.
I believe the Islanders could replicate or even better the performance last year in the playoffs.
Oh, without a doubt. Honestly, they're looking strong. They have solid goaltending in Varlamov and Sorokin, and I just feel like they could go far.
And like they can roll out all four lines too. And I what I don't understand about the seaside question is they had four very good centermen and six sets at centermen, so they would have to move him to wing. There's only Strapens for that too.
Yeah, yeah, like you mentioned, they had centermen. I just think they threw him on there just for a chance to win the cup. Some guys at the, in their later moments of their career, they just want to win that championship so they can retire with a ring, you know. So that's why I feel they threw Sajak in on that deal.
True. And like before last year's playoffs, I underestimated the Islanders for two reasons. Number one, they just play a boring style of hockey. Like I watched every game of the playoff run and I was bored out of my mind. Weren't you?
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I watched them beat the Capitals, and it wasn't that high of a scoring series. They're really good defensively, and Barry Trotz plays a really good defensive game within his team. As a as a Barry Trotz once coached the Capitals, I know he's good at shutting teams down, keeping their goals low, and that's exactly what he did with the Islanders. And I believe they'll do that again this year.
Mm. And the second reason why I doubted them heading into those playoffs is because before the pandemic hit, they were on a 7 game losing streak and were in real danger of coming out of the playoffs. And I thought that would happen again. But as we all know now, the pandemic switched a lot of things up. Like the best team in the league are out in the first round for St. Louis Blues news, for example. So this year is obviously different. That is going to mean something if they go on a losing streak or something. But no doubt in my mind, am I not underestimating them anymore?
I completely agree with you.
Okay, what's your next trade?
Our next trade, this happened on April 8th. The Chicago Blackhawks acquired Brett Connolly, Bradley Stillman, some rights to Borgstrom, who I've never heard of personally, and a 2021 seventh round pick. And in return, the Panthers got Lucas Carlson and Lucas Wallmark.
Okay, well, let's talk about the Florida side of the deal. They got Walmart, who is a decent fourth line depth guy, and they got a prospect who isn't likely to turn into anything now. But the bigger part and the reason why they did this trade is to get rid of cap to bring in a big trade deadline acquisition, and I believe they lose that to good lose. Anyways, let's look at the Chicago side of things. With that Brett Conley, who's having a horrific year, but he's definitely a very good middle set winner option who can put up 35 to 40 points a year. But I think he fits well on the Chicago squad because of his veteran leadership. Like you watched the Capitals and Brett Conley was on that cup run. What can you tell me more about him?
I liked him. I liked him when he was a part of the Capitals team. Like you said, he's a middle six guy. He's probably a third line forward at best, and he's there to provide leadership, veteran experience, and he can put in the goals occasionally. I think it's something that Chicago could use, seeing as they have a lot of rookies on their team this year, and if they're going to try to push for that central playoff, I think that he's a good addition.
No, and you said that you don't know who Henrik Borgstrom is, but I do. He was a former Panthers first round pick, and before this year, he had little bouts. He had a great college career at the University of Denver, but he refused to sign with the Panthers before the start of the year. And of course, with the first round pick, you can't waste that. So I think that's why they threw him in the Conley deal. Who else did he say?
Gotcha.
Who else did he say? Wiley Stillman is such a depth defenseman. He's long 25 years old, I believe. He's a number 6-7 defenseman at best. And you said there was one more player in there?
No, just a seventh round pick.
Oh, okay. So what's the next trade we have?
The next one following that one was the Toronto Maple Leafs acquiring Riley Nash, and Columbus receiving a 2022 conditional seventh round pick. So the pick becomes a sixth round pick if Nash appears in 25% of Toronto's playoff games.
And what can you tell me about Wiley Nash?
Riley Nash, he's a good fit in Toronto. I don't see him making 25% of Toronto's playoff games, especially with their later addition of Nick Foligno. Uh, like you said, he's a bottom line guy, fourth or third line. But with Toronto's depth, I see him in and out of the roster. But I personally like him.
Mm. And like as you said, he's on IR. So, but when he gets off it, he's a terrific fourth line sentiment with this Leafs team, and it adds another option. Like I always say, that wins championships, and giving up a sixth round pick for a player who can potentially help you win a cup is a great steal of a deal.
Yes, definitely. So moving on, we have one of the bigger trades here. The Columbus Blue Jackets. It's a three-way trade. Everyone's heard about it. The Blue Jackets acquired Tampa's 2021 first-round pick, Tampa's 2022 third-round pick, and retained 50% of David Savard's salary. The Red Wings get Tampa's 2021 fourth-round pick and retain 50% of Savard's salary. And the Tampa Bay Lightning acquired David Savard and Brian Lashoff.
So let's talk about each team's side of the deal. First of all, let's start with Detroit. They just basically get a fourth round pick for doing nothing besides holding back a little bit of a salary. I mean, that's obviously a good deal because, well, you're getting a pick for doing nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Detroit just did this to
You cut it
I
out.
guess for the pick. Honestly, like they didn't play a really big important role. Oh, sorry. Am I good?
That look good now.
Okay, sorry,
Anyways,
my internet's a little chippy. I just think that Detroit didn't play a huge part in this trade, but they're just there to help out Columbus.
mm. And now let's talk about what Columbia's acquired.
They got, like I said, Tampa's first round pick and Tampa's 2020 third round pick, which I think is fair for David Savard. He's a sturdy defenseman, and he'd be good on any team looking to strengthen their defense before the playoffs. And I think everybody won in this trade.
And now more about Colombia, since this first round pick is intriguing to me. As in this draft, there's no barely any scouting involved on most of these teams. For AHL isn't even playing. For WHL barely plays. Same with the QMHL. Most of the prospects are in Europe. So this first round pick could be a massive steal. As who knows, maybe the best player in the draft lands right for laps.
Exactly. It's going to be based a lot on last year's performance by the prospects and what little scouting they've done so far.
Mm. And David Savard, as he says, a solid option. But I think this could help Tampa repeat as champions, as this looks like a championship type of move, bringing in a top four defenseman to a already very solid Tampa D crops. It's just a steal of a move by Julian Brisbois, Tampa's general manager.
Yes, it is. I agree with you. I feel like Tampa made a really big change, and it will help them in the long run.
Okay, what do we have next?
Next, we have the first Buffalo trade. They sent Brandon Montour to Florida for a 2021 third round pick.
And you had very strong feelings about this trade earlier, didn't you?
Yes, I did. I'm a huge fan of Brandon Montour. He's a really great defenseman, and he did struggle a bit in Buffalo, but with the season they had, almost their whole roster did. I feel like he's a great addition for Florida missing Ekblad, and he's not a replacement for Ekblad, but he's certainly one of the best fillers they could have picked up.
And for only a good round pick too, I would have handed them a second round pick, no problem, to replace a gaping hole on defense like Aaron Ekblad.
Yeah, exactly. So overall, I think both teams won this as Buffalo's going through that rebuilding. Hopefully, I know people mention that all the time, but I feel like the Panthers definitely walk out of this trade happy as well.
Do you see the Panthers getting for this year with Monto as the quarterback on defense? Well, I'm assuming that's what his role would be.
Yeah, I do. It will be tough because I feel the Panthers will either have to play Tampa Bay or Carolina in the first round. Either way, those will be great series, and I think ultimately one of those teams will make it to the Stanley Cup Finals.
Well, the thing about Florida in my mind is it depends how they interview for me to determine if they can get past Carolina or Tampa Bay. As if they interview on an 8 game winning streak, I have no doubt picking them over Carolina. But if they go in like with a 5-5 record, it's very difficult to see me Florida moving past Carolina or Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Rich. I'll move on. The next trade here, the Avalanche acquired Devin Dubnik for Greg Pattern. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, and a 2021 fifth-round pick. Your thoughts?
Well, the Sharks basically just traded away a veteran goalie who had a very successful tenure in Minnesota Wild before his last season there. And they get back a depth defenseman. But I want to talk about the Sharks a little bit more. They were actually pretty close to the playoff race. I won't be surprised if they sneak into that last seed. I've been Patton adds a little bit more depth to that. I think that was what Doug Wilson, Sharks general manager, was thinking about getting Patton back as part of the deal.
Yeah, no, that's definitely. So, who do you think won this trade then?
Oh,
Colorado, definitely.
Colorado, no doubt, because Dubnik is a sign upgrade over Johansson, and he'll give Grubauer good back support.
Yeah, I agree. With Grubauer and Dubnik now, that's a really good goalie tandem in Colorado.
Mm.
Next off, we have the first Capitals trade. They traded defenseman Jonas Siegenthaler for a 2021 conditional third-round pick. I'll
And
take this one away. Um, Obviously, I'm a huge Capitals fan. Siegenthaler didn't play that much this year. With the acquirements of Trevor Van Riemsdyk, Zdeno Chara, Justin Schultz, he didn't really have a spot on the team to Peter Laviolette, the coach, and he only played a handful of games. I believe his last game he played, he's on the ice for a total of 20 seconds, and he has no points this season. So, unfortunately, he's a good, hard worker, and he has a great future ahead of him. But I think the Capitals won this trade.
I'm surprised you managed to get a good round pick for him, quite honestly. I think that's a little steal of a deal because the Capitals were worried about losing inside Bangalore to expansion. And if I was the Devils or another NHL team, I would have been offering 6 round picks just to drive the price lower. But New Jersey brought on a pretty generous deal for a player who has no points this year.
No, exactly. But Siegenthaler can produce. He's a solid young defenseman, and it might pay off for the Devils in the long run.
Oh, I'm not trusting something at all. It's just a little much to pay for in these circumstances. Anyways, what do we have next?
Next, we have the Montreal Canadiens acquiring John Merrill from the Detroit Red Wings, and the Red Wings acquiring Hayden Verbeek and a 2021 fifth-round pick. I'll let you take that one.
So, like earlier that evening, Montreal placed a 22-year-old defenseman Victor Mete on waivers to make room for Merhill in this deal. And I'm a Wings fan, and Merhill did fine with us. He's nothing special. He's a defensive defenseman. He's a number 6 or number 7 on most team step shots, and that's exactly the role he will fill now that Mete is gone as he got claimed by Ottawa. And a fifth round pick for him is about what I expected for him. I was hoping for a fourth, but fifth is far more realistic in my opinion.
Well said. I agree with you there. Our next trade was our last three team trade of this deadline. the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Columbus Blue Jackets, and the San Jose Sharks had a bit of a trade. Toronto ended up acquiring Nick Foligno from the Columbus Blue Jackets and Stefan Noesen from the San Jose Sharks. The Blue Jackets acquired a first round pick, a fourth round pick, and retains 50% of his salary. The Sharks acquired a fourth round pick from this as well.
And let's start with the Sharks once again. They played for Wolves as taking back salary like the Red Wings did and getting a good pick out of it. So I think for a partial winner here. But I think all sides of this trade work out too. Columbia's for losing their captain, the heart and soul player, but very realistic sounds for Lino resigns back to the free agency. But we managed to get a first round pick, a second round pick, and you said a fourth round pick, right?
Yes.
All of that for a 35 point to 40-point player in a good deal for him at this point in his career. He's age 33 too. It's a pretty good skill for Columbia's. And for Toronto's side
Yeah.
of things, you're getting a veteran leadership player, a middle six option who has defensive tendencies to help out a lot, and he's supposed to be paired up on Tavares and Nylander's line to start off with you. How do you see him producing in Toronto?
I see him keeping his pace up. Right now, he has 7 goals and 9 assists this season. Not a whole lot of points, but Columbus has been struggling. I do see him fit well in with the Leafs. I feel like the Leafs are going all in this season. I feel like this has been their best team for years, and I feel like he was a great acquisition.
Do you see him potentially making the Leafs a step up better than for Oilers and Bersets?
Yeah, I do. Well, right now I think the Leafs are already a step up on the Oilers, but I think he just solidifies their bottom 6 forwards, and I just feel like it was a great pick.
And as I said before, depth always wins championships as well. He's part of one of those factors that can help win the cup.
Exactly. All
What
right, so we have three little, not smaller ones per se, but we'll just run through these quickly. So the Boston Bruins acquired Mike Riley from the Ottawa Senators for a third round pick. Thoughts?
O'Reilly is a defenseman who I wasn't high up until I looked at his stats this year, and he has been Ottawa's arguably best defenseman this year. 19 points in 38 games. For a third round pick is a pretty good return for him for Ottawa too, as they probably weren't going to sign him. And Boston lost a big part of the blue line last offseason, losing Corey Krug to St. Louis. Bad move, but anyways, Wiley
Yeah,
helps out that depth a little bit more. Now you're a
yeah.
little higher on Wiley than I am. What can you tell me more about him?
I'm not a big fan of Riley. I'm not a big fan of the Ottawa Senators to begin with, but like you said, this guy's arguably one of their better defensemen. And Boston's going through some defense troubles right now. They had 5 of their 6 starting guys of the season out last night against the Capitals. So anything helps, and I feel like Mike Riley will step in and provide that assistance until their decor is healthy.
What's our next little deal?
Yes, this one I'll just go through quickly. Big Save Dave, as people in Calgary call him, David Rittich, traded to the Toronto Maple Leafs for a third round pick. I really like Rittich. I think he's a great goalie, and I wish the Capitals would have picked him up. Right now, he has a 2.9 goals against average, which isn't horrible, isn't the best, and he struggled a bit in Calgary just because of Calgary. I think he'd be a great backup to Jack Campbell, and I don't see Anderson staying in Toronto after this season.
Mm. Yeah, and but a thing about Toronto is Anderson's out for video two until the playoffs. And once you enter the playoffs, you have Anderson, who says still pretty solid goalie in my mind. You have Campbell, who says won 11 straight games in a row, which is remarkable. And you have a solid tandem goalie with this. Who do you see leading them into the playoffs and to the first round?
Sorry, what'd you say?
Who do you see, which goalie do you see leading the Leafs into the first round of the playoffs?
Well, like you said, Jack Campbell's on that 11-game winning streak. I see him playing the first round. I don't know Anderson's status. I don't know how healthy he'll be by the playoffs. He'll probably be back. Um, I just see Campbell taking it away, and it'll be up to Rivich and Anderson to see who'll be the backup.
I think at the end of the year, Limans and Anderson's likely to be gone. I couldn't agree more. As now they have Campbell and Wetters who could form a solid tandem if Campbell can keep his level of player up over the next couple of years. Now I don't know if he can do that. I don't because he's been middle to lower tier of backup goalie for a couple of years now, and suddenly he's having a good season. How do you think Campbell is doing Bill after this year?
I feel like Campbell could position himself in a starting role with the Maple Leafs, or if things go bad for some reason and they want to keep Anderson, I could definitely see him getting some high attention from other teams around the league.
Hmm.
I
Okay.
don't I don't see him moving Toronto, but you never know with the three strong goalies they have.
Hmm. And what's on next deal?
Next deal is the Pittsburgh Penguins acquiring Jeff Carter from the LA Kings for a 2022 conditional third round pick and a 23 conditional fourth round pick.
Now I don't know about you, but this was the one trade
Not
this
this year.
trade line I didn't expect at all. Like maybe I should have Seth Carter was a free agent, but LA has a tendency to keep the veteran players. Like they didn't trade Dustin Brown this offseason. So it was a surprise to me, but he helps Pittsburgh center depth, which is what Burke and Headstall were trying to do. So I see as a win of both sides. LA that's some picks for him, and Carter helps the Penguins getting what they needed.
I agree with you. This is a win for both sides here. Just so Pittsburgh has that center depth like you mentioned, and the LA Kings got a couple of picks. I feel like that's the right amount for Jeff Carter right now.
And like Carter is way past his prime right now, but he's still a solid 35-point player who can score goals in important times. Like he was a very key contributor to those two cup runs Ole had, and his cup run with Philly in 2009 too.
Yes. All right. So here I'm moving to the biggest trade of the deadline. This happened last night actually. The Buffalo Sabres acquired Anders Bjork, 2022 second round pick for Taylor Hall and Curtis Lazar heading to Boston. What do you
Now,
think?
now I disagree with you about the biggest trade. I think that is to come. But I think like Boston didn't give up a lot at all. They gave up a 24-year-old who basically established himself as a fourth liner at this point. He could improve. He still has potential. But right now I classify him as a fourth liner. And we get second round pick for a former Hart Trophy winner and someone who Boston's been looking for years to play alongside that wing with David Krejci. Now, the thing about Boston is, I don't see them getting far in the playoffs. There's just something about them. Like, you lose an important part of the blue line in Corey Crew. Your goalie's been average at best. Like, Tuukka Rask is one of the top goalies in the league, but he hasn't been great. Neither has Halak, to, to be fair. And for setting them fourth in the division, I don't see how helping them get out of the first round, in my opinion.
I don't see them making the playoffs. I see the Rangers coming in, taking that final spot. The Rangers have been on a tear lately. This isn't about them. This is about the trade. Um, yeah, this is definitely a Buffalo or Boston definitely won this. Like Anders Bjork for Taylor Hall and Curtis Lazar, basically, depending on how that second round pick turns out to be. Just honestly, almost a steal. And I agree with you. might not be the biggest trade, but it was the most anticipated with Taylor Hall. And these guys just add some more skill and depth a little bit to the Boston Bruins lineup.
And by that is what Curtis Lasalle is. He's just a fourth line player. Moving on.
Exactly. Okay, moving on. Let's see here. We got here's another bigger one. The Florida Panthers acquire Sam Bennett and a 2022 sixth round pick, and the Flames acquire a second round pick and Emil Heineman from the Florida Panthers.
So what do you think about this trade from both perspectives?
I'll just talk about the Calgary side here. I think when one of our last videos, I mentioned that there's a lot of chemistry issues going on in Calgary, and it was made a point earlier on in their season that Sam Bennett wanted out of there. So, as a team like Florida, who is trying to make a run in the playoffs, he's a good acquisition, and I feel like both teams walked out of this one not upset with what happened.
Now, from my perspective, the Panthers are the big winners here. Like Calgary, they got what they can get for a disgruntled forward who wanted out, and they got a fine return, like not nothing special. But Florida, they get a player who still has potential. He's still only 24 years old. He can still turn out to be a 50-point guy, I think. And he's a proven playoff performer, something Florida looked at. And this is why I think they moved Brett Conley to bring in Sam Bennett, a more productive, a more playoff ready player, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's definitely why Connolly was on the move.
And I
Bennett
also
will add Bennett adds a bunch of skills to the Panthers as well. Not like they're short of it, but it was a good acquirement.
And the Panthers also added off of Tim Mason contract from the Devils, Nikita Gusev, who also replaces Brett Conley, a better player. And Les Gusev had a rough season in New Jersey this year, but he's still a highly skilled player. Like how he won the best player in the Olympics a couple of years ago. So I still think Gusev also brings that depth to the Panthers. And with the Panthers adding Bennett, Gusev, and Monto, the movement set for the playoffs.
I completely agree with you. I don't know if you're going to touch on the whole Gusev situation, but basically he was placed on unconditional waivers for the purpose of his contract being terminated with the Devils. I guess they didn't think he was part of their future, and he was a little bit expensive with 4.5 million average a year. Um, but like you said, great pickup for the Florida Panthers, and see them being a bit of a force in the playoffs.
Moving on, what do we have next?
We have, let's see here, we have the Philadelphia Flyers acquiring a 2022 seventh round pick, and the Montreal Canadiens acquiring defenseman Eric Gustafson.
For my opinion, Montreal is obviously the winners here. Like, Gustafsson isn't a great defenseman, but Montreal adds more depth to that position. With Phil, they have lots of depth, but they really need a top player on that left side, which Gustafsson can hopefully provide. I think that's what they are hoping for, and that he'll learn from Shea Weber and only give up is a seventh round pick.
Yeah, that sounds like a perfect trade for Montreal. Like you said, he's not a big name defenseman, but somebody who can get the job done, and that's something Montreal needs to improve on if they want to upset somebody heading forth.
And I also think they lose Gustafsson's contract as well as $3 million for a year on the new extension for forward Scott Laughton. Well, they signed him to a 5 year, $3 million extension instead of trading him away, which I think is good because he wanted to be there and he's a pretty good third line centerman. What do you think?
I agree with you again. I tend to agree with you quite a bit here, Rich. You say some truths, but Scott Laughton, he's a great player in Philadelphia, and he's a very important part of their team moving forward. So, freeing up some space with Gustafson definitely helps re-sign Scott
Okay, moving on. What trade do we have next?
I actually want to correct myself from earlier. Turns out there is actually one more three-way trade I wasn't aware of. The Vegas Golden Knights acquired Matthias Janmark. Um, the Chicago Blackhawks got a 2021 second-round pick and a third-round pick, and the Sharks got a fifth-round pick.
So once again, for Sox play for cap happy team that in a pick back. Chicago gets a second and third round pick for a depth player who they weren't going to sign anyways. And Vegas does a depth player for cup run. And as I said previously, Vegas needed depth to win the Stanley Cup. And I think Landmark is a terrific third liner to be added to the equation. What do you think?
Yeah, he didn't put up too many points this year, but like you said, he's a great addition to an already scary Vegas team. So with that addition and without giving up too much, I feel like Vegas walked out of that pretty happy.
Same with Chicago Bulls. I've been wondering to sign him. I need a second round pick and a third round pick. I'll be happy if I were them too.
Exactly. All right, I'll move on here. We'll do this one here. Ottawa acquired a seventh-round pick in 2023, and Nashville acquired Eric Branson from Ottawa.
And now I was confused about what Ottawa is saying anymore. I don't think I can believe anything they are saying anymore. As in January or February, Dorian said that Goodbranson they were looking at resigning him and they see him as an important leadership component to the locker room. And then they give him away for basically nothing. So I don't
Yeah,
think I can believe anything Dorian says out of his mouth again.
yeah. Honestly, like the seventh-round pick is I know Branson isn't a superstar defenseman, but I think he's worth more than
He's
a
worth a
seventh-round pick.
he's worth at
Um,
least a fifth round pick, and Nashville says I'd step for the playoff run, which won't add, which won't
yeah, exactly.
which won't last
Exactly.
long.
They didn't end up trading. Oh, sorry. There's a little bit of a lag right now.
No
Um,
problem.
they did end up trading. They did end up trading Ekholm, so that just strengthens their defense core.
Nashville did for what I thought they would do and said for going for the postseason one. Now, I don't think that's the right plan of action since this was the perfect opportunity to trade away Ekholm and Arvidsson and retool the franchise that they desperately needed. But instead, they decided to go to the playoff take a playoff run and be out by Tampa, Carolina, or Florida. So such a
Yeah, I agree with you. And they'll have a tough road ahead of them for sure.
okay,
All
but
right, next one is here's I think what you think is the biggest trade of the trade deadline. The Detroit Red Wings acquire Richard Panik, Jacob Vrana, first-round pick, and the second-round pick, and the Capitals acquire Anthony Mantha.
now I would like to talk about this before Lou do if that's okay with Lou.
Take it away.
So Detroit had this big power forward. He's 26 years old, Anthony Mantha, who has goal scoring abilities and has abilities to be elite. But he's been such lazy as a Red Wing, and I'm a Wings fan. I watch a lot of the games, and sometimes he doesn't even show up. When he does, he's brilliant. Like in the September Classic a couple of years ago, he was the best player doing it. He scored 12 points in the World Junior Championships in 2019 and he was also a goal-scoring dynamo in Mimoski. So what Washington is getting is potential of a big power forward who fits that team perfectly for a cup run, which I don't see as a bad thing for Capitals, as I think he fits perfectly into the system, has the ability to hit 70 plus points. But as a Red Wing fan, I'm more than happy to say bye to a lazy player and getting Jacob Vrana, who is on pace for 50 points in a full season. and had a breakout year last year with 62 points on pace for 62 points last season. And he was playing third line minutes too and still getting 50 points. So I think he replaces Manfred with 70 points. Panic was such a top thrower and a first round pick and a second round pick. And the first round pick is for this draft too. Once again, that could be a superstar right there. And a second round pick too. I don't see how the Red Wings come out looking bad, but the Capitals gave up too much for Manfred, which I'm fine with as a Red Wing fan. And Manfred could help the Capitals win the cup, as I think they're looking a lot better for a cup run than they did previously. And like it's not like Brandon was a bad player for them. He wasn't. Memphis just fits in that mold a little bit better.
Okay, I'll take it away from a Capitals standpoint of this trade. Obviously, I freaked out a bit when I saw it because Jacob Vrana is supposed to be part of our future since we've gotten a lot of older players. So I was actually pretty upset when I saw this. Vrana is only 25 years old. He is one of the fastest players on our team, and he's also had a couple great seasons in his last couple of years. And this year he has 25 points, which isn't his best year, and he was a bit inconsistent, which may have led to the trade. It may have been the new coach didn't fit in well with his systems, but I can see Jacob Vrana being pretty lethal along with Dylan Larkin and Tyler Bertuzzi with the Red Wings. Um, Obviously, as a biased Capitals fan, I think the trade would have been fine just giving them Panic in the two picks, but obviously, as you heard from Richard, they couldn't be happier grabbing Vrana. So I have to come to terms with that, and hopefully Mantha fits in great with the Capitals.
Well, Manfred also has a big contract too, and he's 26 years old, so he has a long time to prove himself with the Capitals too. It's not just like you're getting a 35-year-old player, you're getting a player who should be hitting his prime soon.
That's also true. So we can only hope for the best here.
Mhm.
Obviously, this still hurts a bit because I really loved watching Brandon play with Wilson, Backstrom. The lines, he can fit in any line, any position, and he'll be great in Detroit.
And the Capitals also picked up Michael Raphael from Philadelphia, did they not?
Yes, they did. I was going to go to that in a couple seconds. I had one more ahead of that, but we can dive into that one right now. Michael Raffle, he has 8 points this season for Philadelphia. He is not the best player in the world, and I personally wasn't a fan of him when we played the Flyers. He's just that forward. He has depth, but
Mm.
I see him just basically replacing Panic's position, and Panic was in and out of the roster constantly. So I don't see this as a huge acquisition. Possibly if we fight the injury bug later, but this wasn't as big as that Red Wings trade.
So he's basically the same player as Panic.
Yeah. All right, so we got two more trades here that we'll talk about. Um, let's see here. The Vancouver Canucks acquired Madison Bowie and a fifth-round pick, and the Blackhawks got a fourth-round pick. And
Now,
now, I'm sorry, you go first.
Now, Bowie played for the Red Wings last year and he was previously a Capital, and I wanted the Red Wings to resign him as I saw potential in him, not as much potential as he used to have. But look, basically, they've been going down like 20 spots and getting a depth defenseman just to move up 20 spots. So it's a low maintenance deal, but if Bowie even comes close to producing like he did in Sooners, I think it could be a good deal for Vancouver, especially since they got rid of the next player on our list.
Like you said, he had an incredible junior career. He didn't fit. He didn't fit so well in with the Capitals, unfortunately, as he was traded to Detroit. But this was a great pickup for Vancouver, and I feel like he'll make an improvement in their defense. All right, then our last trade of the day we'll talk about is the Vancouver Canucks getting a 2021 sixth-round pick, and the Winnipeg Jets acquiring Jordy Bell.
Now, I would like to cover this one. As Winnipeg, I was hoping that they would acquire David Savard. As I thought Winnipeg, if they acquired the top four defensemen they are just as good as the Leafs. Now, obviously, Jordy Ben isn't a top four defenseman. He's a good 5-6 defenseman, but Winnipeg has a bunch of those players. He just added playoff depth, but it's not what they needed. What they needed was a top four defenseman like a Savard or how even Eric Gustafson would have been sufficed. Travis Harmonic could have been too.
Yeah, I agree with you. I heard that Hamonic did want to leave uh, the Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton. I guess that's the teams he wants to play for. Might be a local home thing, but that's unfortunate. Good for Jordy Ben to get out of Vancouver, but unfortunate for Winnipeg that they couldn't have picked up a stronger defenseman. Don't get me wrong, this guy is a great stay-at-home defenseman. Doesn't put up many points, but blocks tons of shots and plays a good amount of hits. So this could play out poorly or pretty great for Winnipeg, in my opinion.
Well, I don't see how it could play out poorly as it's a low risk situation. It's just that they disappointed me as I was hoping to see a bit more. As if they were going to win a cup, I think this year would have been it. And
Yeah,
talking about that defenseman, Vatanen was earlier on waivers by New Jersey, and Dallas ended up picking him up instead of Winnipeg. Well, Dallas also kept Samuel Lexia, so they're going for a playoff run too, as I think they should be doing anyways.
yeah. No, he's a great pickup. I like watching Sammy Vatanen in New Jersey, and I feel like he just strengthens the Dallas core a bit more. He's a great defenseman, and he's good at moving the rush up and playing, jumping into the rush and just helping out the offense as well. So great pickup for Dallas.
And there was one more waiver wire pick, wasn't there, available who got claimed? I forget his name for what's his name?
Which one are you thinking of? The Mete one?
Yeah, never mind, we already covered him. Anyways, what team impressed you the most this offseason, this
Trade
trade
deadline.
deadline? Yes.
Uh, Definitely. I mean, the winner of this deadline, in my opinion, were the Boston Bruins and the Detroit Red Wings. The Bruins basically acquired former Hart Memorial or Hart Trophy winner, sorry, for basically almost nothing, as well as Curtis Lazar. Just helped Boston. I know they were struggling a bit, and like you said, you think they squeak into the playoffs, but I feel like that was a good pickup for them. And then the Red Wings picked up Vrana, which is great, and a couple picks throughout the whole thing as well. So my
Now,
biggest my
now,
biggest winners were Boston and Detroit.
now I have to disagree with you about Detroit being a winner, as we had a bunch of players who could have been traded and we didn't. We only traded away Patrick Nemeth to Colorado, fourth round pick, which was fine. But and I expected them to trade Manfred. Now I wasn't looking at that type of deal, and I was expecting Washington. I was expecting Edmonton, but they didn't trade away Jonathan Burnley, where we could have gotten a good pick. Bobby Ryan. We didn't trade away what's his face oh, who am I thinking of Luke Glendening, who apparently the sweepstakes were high on. We only traded away Mohill and Nemeth and Mantle, which kind of disappointed me as I wanted all of these picks and oh well.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I could have seen the Red Wings throwing on Jonathan Bernier with that deal. That would have made me a bit happier. Maybe throw another pick on there for the cap side for Bernier, but I don't know. I feel like just based on that Capitals trade, the Red Wings definitely won, and Steve Yzerman continues being a great GM.
And like Washington disappointed me also as Lisa Binney did backup goalie and they could have easily got Burnley in that deal and send us Carlo Hagelin or someone with a big cap hit, but whatever.
Yeah, it was definitely a very interesting trade deadline, and it kept me on my feet. I was hoping the Caps pick up another goalie. It's going to be tough with just Vitek Vanacek and the inconsistent Sandstone off to make a good playoff push, but hopefully the boys can do it.
Which team disappointed you the most this free agency?
They didn't disappoint me the
I
most,
mean,
but I gotta
trade.
go with my Capitals because, like I just mentioned, they should have picked up a goalie. But if I'm not going with the Capitals, that's a great question. I would probably. That's a good question. I'm trying to think of a team that's not the Capitals. Who disappointed you the most?
Well, for me, I'm going to name my most happy with and most disappointing after you're done. But I'll go Tampa Bay. I think was the big winner of free agency trade deadline as they got a top four defenseman for a good lineup of picks to help repeat. And David Savard, as I said previously, is the type of defenseman that you win championships with. And Volusia has to be Winnipeg for my previous reasons. I was expecting them to take top four defensemen, but they didn't do anything besides acquire a top six defenseman.
Yeah, I just thought of my answer here. I know picks are great, but right now, and they're not a threat by any means, but the Columbus Blue Jackets losing Foligno is tough. He was a great captain and he'll be missed, but he was getting older, as well as Riley Nash. If you look at the current Columbus roster, their forward their forwards aren't that strong. You got guys like Atkinson, Boone Jenner, Patrick Laine, Roslovic, and then it just drops off after that.
Well, 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 what I think Columbus needs to do is go through a little retool. Say bye to Total Valley, great coach. He just doesn't fit a rebuilding team. I think they should trade away Seth Jones. I know. No, don't say I'm crazy, but I'm asking for return to get on Seth Jones and we can head on with Rowensky as the top defenseman moving forward. And we can move on with Rowensky and Lonnie as your starting points, as Lonnie doesn't fit Tortorella's system or the system in general. But if you can move some parts around, retool, Lonnie and Rowensky can be the building blocks of the top team moving forward. And I think the reason why we're so weak up front is because you lost pure Luke Duplon. He fitted that system nicely while Lane isn't a bad player, he's a great player. He just doesn't fit the system yet.
Yeah, I agree with you. But like I said, just personally, I don't see Columbus coming out of here that strong. And I know they weren't trying to come out of here that strong. I just feel like, and I know you shouldn't just be judging off of this season because the Blue Jackets aren't going to make the playoffs. That's inevitable. But losing a guy like Nick Foligno just hurts the franchise, especially like how important he was to the team and the organization and all the fans. It's just a tough loss. But good on Toronto for picking him up.
Well, as I said before, he could come back in free agency too.
Exactly. And with that being said, I also want to change my answer. I believe the Maple Leafs also won this trade deadline, picking up David Riddick, Nick Foligno, and Riley Nash. All great pickups for a team that's trying to go far in the playoffs.
And they also picked up Ben Hutton from Anaheim for a fifth round pick too. I forgot about that one.
Oh, yeah. No, I passed that one earlier. My bad. But
Like
yeah,
they added depth at all positions and they have a skilly team. I could see them winning the cup this year.
so can I. Well, this concludes a great trade deadline with a lot of interesting trades, and I'm glad that you invited me on the show to talk about it, Rich.
No problem. Thanks for showing up. Have a good night, bud.
Thank you. You too, man. We'll have to get back for the playoff edition.
Yes, we would. Bye.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, man.
No problem. Bye.
Bye.
So that was Hunter Monkhouse. Well, this trade deadline was certainly eventful, and I'm glad if you listened throughout the entire rundown of it with us. Have a good night. You're with Sports Street with Richard Campbell.